Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Wisdom Within. I am here with the amazing Maddie, who I met about 2 years ago now in Austin. And I'm so grateful to have her here and to get to connect with her and have her share her magic in this space. So we want to just say hi, introduce a bit about what you're doing at the moment in life, and then we can get going with the flow of the conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Talia. Hello, everyone. My name is Maddie. I am Maddie B Energy, and I am a Reiki master. I am a holographic sound healing master, becoming a master teacher. And I, right now, am living in Austin. I am spreading my love here through sound healing. I do holographic sound healing meditations around Austin. And I also just started teaching a Reiki course, which has been so magical already, getting to share this gift of Reiki, which is such a foundation in my life, and inspire other people into what our magical hands can do for ourselves and the world. So that's the most juicy, delicious thing that I'm working on right now. And yeah, it's just such an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Well, I like to start by just saying how I know the person, how we met, because part of the magic in my life is just how we all cross paths and interweave and how we meet. So was in Austin and I decided I need to go do some classes because I wanted to explore different practices, and I knew it was out there, and I thought, okay, let me just join a studio. So I joined a studio that was, I think, $30 for 30 days. And the first class I went to was a sound healing class. And guess who the teacher was? It was Maddie. And I was so eager just to like talk to people and make friends because I had just moved. And yeah, you were just so sweet to me, and you were like, yeah, we can like hang out, we can go out together. And I was like, oh my God, really? That's so nice. The sound healing was amazing. I like went into another dimension. I think that was like one of the first times I'd like astro traveled properly. So
Mm.
I was like, okay, she's like super cool and made me astro travel. Love that. Would love to hang out with her. And then yeah, we went to a waterfall.
Yeah,
It was
McKinney
Waterfall.
Falls.
And
Yeah,
we had some great chats and we had some food, and
yeah.
yeah, it was just so magical. And then you ended up leaving Austin and traveling, but we stayed in touch ever since. And so yeah, that's our story. That's our love story, our love affair.
Yay.
Maybe we can start by just talking about what Reiki is, because that's what's feeling the most alive and juicy for you right now, and it's something you're offering to the world. And yeah, I actually did my level 1 recently, which is exciting. And so, yeah, I think it would be cool for you to share about what it is for you, how it's impacted your life, and how you're using it to impact others.
Mm, it's such a delicious invitation and question. Thank you so much. And also, thank you for sharing our love story because when you came into Body Collective that day, there was like this glow around you. And so we didn't really
Oh.
chat a whole lot before, but then
Mm.
you like just were exuding light afterwards. And I was so grateful that you came up and talked to me because I instantly felt like this deep connection with you. And I was so
Oh.
inspired by like this big risk jump that you'd taken, you know, coming from London, being in Austin, and that you were like so open to forming community. And it's been really cool to watch your energy in the way that you've been traveling because
Mm.
you're still doing that. And so it's opening up beautiful doors and making beautiful connections. And like, not only that, but you're helping introduce people to other people and just bringing communities together. So I really want to honor that.
I mean, that's one of my main intentions for this podcast. So thank you for seeing that vision. And yeah, that's the gift we've been given with the internet, is that we can do that. And so I'm like, okay, I may as well do it. It's fun for me anyway. And I've always been someone to just like go up to people because like as a facilitator myself or anything I do, like expressing gratitude, like I always stay behind at the end and I'm like, this is what you did for me today, or this is what you didn't do for me today, but just sharing from my heart. So yeah, it was nice for that to be received and that we like continued our connection, because I've gone up to some people and that was the last I saw of them. So it's nice to stay in touch.
Yeah. It was such a gift to receive that, to receive you, and then for that connection to continue, for us to have our mermaid adventure in the waterfall,
Yes.
just like so much deliciousness. So yeah, you were just a beautiful, divine, sacred being, and I'm so blessed that you came
Mm,
to that found healing. And
me too.
so to share about Reiki, if you're not familiar with it, Reiki is universal life force energy. And so when we're talking about what Reiki is this innate ability that we have to connect to this infinite source of energy. And at the heart of this energy is the frequency of unconditional love, because that's actually what this whole beautiful universe is made out of, is unconditional love. And so when we're learning Reiki, there are different levels to Reiki. So level one is self Reiki. So learning what that means, activating ourselves to this frequency of these symbols, some of the symbols of Reiki, and to this frequency of love. And so part of the ceremony of learning Reiki is an attunement. And so that is where your Reiki master, your teacher, actually imbues these codes into your chakras, into your being, into your system. And so you're being leveled up in a way, but it's not to something that you don't already have. Like
Mm,
Reiki is a remembrance of this energy and of who we truly are. And so more than giving you a symbol that you don't have, it's turning the symbol on. And so when we're exploring Reiki, we really set that foundation of self Reiki, because there's different ways that we can practice it. So it can be done via distance, it can be done over the computer, or any other way. And it can also be done in person. And so when we're really diving into the foundations of Reiki, it's that hands to body. Like the most seemingly simple thing can have the most
mm,
profound impact. So when we take it actually takes 10 seconds of hands to body to activate that parasympathetic nervous system response. And so that is telling your body with your own hands, I am safe. And
mm,
so in Reiki, you learn the different points so that you can systematically bring your whole body into a state of relaxation, telling your body, your nervous system, your lymphatic system, all of your systems, I am safe. And so you can
mm,
actually feel your body relax. And so if you've never practiced Reiki, if you've never received Reiki, I invite you to put your hands on your heart. And you can do this for a couple seconds, or maybe you do it for the whole rest of the episode. But this is
mm.
Reiki, like this is the foundation.
Yeah, I heard something. I think it might have been on another podcast the other day, but like just how that is so natural to us. Like when you like hurt yourself, you'll like immediately go like, oh, and
Mhm.
like you'll like put your hand there. But if you didn't do that, the pain would like probably stay more. And like when you're comforting someone, you will automatically do that. So it's just we intuitively know this, but like we're a lot many of us are starved of touch and connection, and so we've lost that a lot. But the power of our hands and the ability that we have to heal just because of the unconditional love that we are is just so powerful.
Totally. Yes, I love that. And I love that you touched on that we are starved for touch. And that was something that I found to be so true in my life. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing this like intuitive, like you said, like touching my body where I was in pain, but I wasn't really just spending time loving
Yeah.
and touching my body. And so I had left a really long-term relationship. And so I was like really in lack of touch, because I was sort of having that cup filled by my partner for such a long time. But then when I didn't have that reflection, and I also didn't have my puppy who was giving me that physical affection also, I really felt myself in the deficit. And so that was when dance and then Reiki came into my life as this way of reconnecting with my body and like tuning into self-love in a physical
Mm,
way, in a way
yeah.
beyond I had the ways that I had been practicing. And so that was this ultimate breakthrough for me in embodiment, because it was grounding me into my own body. And I could actually
Mm,
feel then, oh, I'm outside of my body now. This is going to help me like come back home. So it really
mm,
helped tune me to the frequency of being in my body, which was something that I so needed. And so now, like, I don't even think about it. I'm just always giving myself self Reiki and like you said with other people too, we have this sense to like touch people and to like share that loving energy, you know? Like we can sense when someone needs a hug or maybe we get an intuitive hit to like put our hand on their shoulder or to like ask if we can put Reiki on their knee, you know? Like they're just
Mm,
these doorways that open possibility to with that self practice, healing ourselves, and then being open to heal other people too. And so that's the evolution of Reiki. When we move into Reiki 2, level 2, that's where we learn distance Reiki. It's where we learn sharing it with other people. It's also where we can explore sharing it with animals, which I love. And so there's just so many cool ways that we get to share Reiki and honoring that that foundation is through self love, because we can only offer others what we're offering ourselves.
mm,
So I couldn't like be a Reiki practitioner for other people if I didn't have that connection of Reiki with my own body. And so
mm,
it's this foundation of what do I need? What are the things I'm trying to receive from the outside? Can I give that to myself? And then in so giving it to myself, I'm naturally giving that out.
mm.
And then from that, you move into masters, which is where you explore energy a little bit deeper. There's a couple more symbols, and then you move into teacher, which is just connecting all the beautiful dots of Reiki. And yeah, it's such a beautiful practice and such a gift. And I love
Mm.
that there's no barrier to entry. Anyone can learn it. You can learn it at any age. There's nothing that you need other than your conscious attention to your breath and your hands if you have them.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope maybe this inspires someone to go learn Reiki or get a session from someone. And I wanted to ask about Reiki as an energy of like how it compares to other types of energy work. Because you say it just works with unconditional love, but obviously it's a tradition. And so are there different types of energy that can be channeled, or is it's a universal one? So could you maybe speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. What a great question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, because I did energy healing on someone and then they were like, it's similar to Reiki, but also it's like different to Reiki. Like it feels like more like she's an energy healer herself and she was like, yeah, it's like very unique. And I was like, I thought I was just doing Reiki, but I guess something else was coming through. And so
Yeah,
that got me curious, yeah.
yeah. So when we're connecting to this universal energy, right? We're connecting to the energy of everything and we're going for that intention, that frequency, that ultimate point of truth, of love. And
Yeah.
so in that, like if you imagine that there is this like massive rainbow ball of yarn of energy that
Yeah.
exists. And so we are connecting to this energy. And so I practice multiple modalities. And so I am inviting in like the highest intention through that frequency of love. What you're talking about, which I love, and I'm so grateful we get to talk about this, is that Reiki does have a thread because there are these symbols. And so I practice Usui Reiki. So that's the lineage that comes from Master Usui from Japan. And
Yeah.
so this channeled modality, the symbols with it, they each have their specific codes and frequencies. So there is this texture of Usui Reiki. And there's different
Hmm.
Reikis around the world. There is actually evidence supporting Reiki being in other civilizations before it came through Japan through Dr. Usui. And so I honor the lineage of Usui Reiki, and so that thread, but that
Hmm.
there's also more threads of this energy. And so
Yeah.
really like one of the foundations, one of the symbols is a grounding symbol. So it's about grounding the energy of spirit into the physical. And so
Mm.
that symbol alone is going to have a very specific texture. Like anything that we work with, any mudra, any sacred geometry, any modality, any word even. Like they each have their own thread. And it's the same way with working with our guides. So you may experience your guides as a group that communicates to you sort of as a whole, or you may be connecting to each individual guide. And that's something that gets developed too. So the more that we practice Reiki, the more that we're able to say, oh, that when that string plays, that's a Reiki string. And when this string plays, like that's an Isis string, you know? So we're able to like tune ourselves a little
Mm.
bit more tightly, so to speak, to what that actual energy thread is. But knowing okay, this is distinctly Reiki versus this is distinctly this guide, isn't necessary to be in that flow of love. So I stick
Yeah.
to that like greater unconditional love because that is the ultimate truth that imbues all things. Um, but yeah, honoring that this lineage, these practices, they do bring a certain energy forward. And so what I have found is that Reiki is so gentle. It's a very loving, soft, still very powerful, but ultimately relaxing energy. And so for me, I tend to work with Reiki, especially when people are needing to come to center and have that like nervous system relaxed. Because some other energies can be a little bit more intense. Like when I work with holographic sound, sometimes that can be really activating. Sometimes it's really gentle, but like you said, you experience astral projection. So there can be more of an experience. So if I'm working with someone who needs to be more in their body, or like I said, when I need to be more in my body, I can rely on Reiki because it's just very, very gentle, soft, um, relaxing, rejuvenating energy.
Mm. Yeah. Thanks for that explanation. And I think, yeah, something that came up was like, even though you're channeling Reiki energy, it will be different. Would it be different how I would channel it? Because like it's coming through a different, unique channel.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So you are the channel for the energy. I'm the
Yeah.
channel for the energy. Anyone who learns it is the channel for the energy. And so we each have our own guides. So we are
Yeah.
all able to connect to the Reiki guides, to the Reiki energy. But I also have some other guides that aren't strictly Reiki guides, and they're going to come in too because there's a
Yeah.
reason that this person found me. Like, I
Yeah,
have other
exactly.
modalities that I practice that are playing with that Reiki energy. So every connection is intentional. Like, they are coming to you for your medicine, which is why we can never
Mm.
have enough Reiki practitioners. There's not like too many or
Yeah,
anything like that. Like, this is such
exactly.
a gift because we have this vibrational resonance to each other. And so we're attracted to certain things because of the codes and frequencies that these people are embodying and sharing.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I think let's move into talking about sound because I know obviously you mentioned that's one of the other modalities that you work with.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe you want to talk a bit about what holographic sound is for those who haven't heard of it.
Absolutely. So, holographic sound healing was channeled by Dr. Paul Hubbard in the 90s. And so I met Dr. Paul a couple years ago. He also makes and sells the most magical crystal bowls. Like,
I think I need to get some. I think it's time for me to get some bowls.
but every time he gets more, they're like somehow even more beautiful. Like, I
Oh,
just,
I want some so badly, but I feel like bringing them on the road. I mean, people do it,
people do
but
it. I
but
travel with my
yeah,
12s and under.
but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's just an excuse. I just need to get
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, it'll happen, divine timing.
Exactly.
Holidays
I trust they'll
happen
come at the
for
right time, and then I'll be traveling with them.
oh, yeah,
Anyway, continue.
yeah. So, the bowls really instantly drew me to them. I had seen crystal sound bowls before, but I'd never played them, I'd only, like, received them, and so I
Yeah.
was at this expo, the Body, Mind, Spirit Celebration, which is coming up in Austin. Um, and I saw this table full of multicolored crystal bowls, and they weren't like the painted ones, which I'd seen. They were like actual different crystals in them. And so I was like, okay, whatever this is magic. It's not in my budget, but I'm coming back. And so I traveled around some more and I came back to Austin and went back to this expo with the intention of getting a small heart chakra bowl that I could travel with. And it wasn't it. I played every single heart chakra bowl he had, and I'm like, "What is happening? I was so sure this was gonna happen. I know my bowl's here. What's going on?" And so I go to his meditation. So the expo
Wait, when
weaves.
you say it wasn't happening, what do you mean?
I knew that there was gonna be some sort of resonance between me and the bowl, but when I
Okay,
played
but you
it,
were
it was like, eh. Like I didn't have the like, "Yes, this is my bowl. I'm so excited to buy it" feeling, and I knew that I
okay.
was gonna get that. So I was like frustrated. So I would just like walk around the expo, go back to the table, and like walk around the expo some more. So I go to his meditation. He was offering a meditation that day. And I hadn't experienced it before. I'd never experienced or heard of holographic sound. I mostly just wanted to hear whatever the dude who made the bowls had to say, or his meditation. And so he's playing the crystal bowls, and then he started channeling dolphins and whales. And in that moment, I just started crying. It was like full soul codes, frequency of something that I couldn't like I had to open my eyes to make sure that it was real life. And then he was up there playing. We're all still in the expo. I closed my eyes back in. And so then I went to his table, played a throat chakra bowl, the biggest bowl he had on his table. It was this beautiful baby blue color, sapphire and quartz, low G, and I knew it was my bowl. It was the biggest bowl I could have possibly chosen, and there was no choice. That was my bowl. And so he had a training coming up, and at first I was like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to let the bowl teach me. And I got home and I played it, and I was like, I have to learn from him. Like, whatever that was, I have to learn from him. And so I did. I took the training, and holographic sound healing is the combination of sound and sacred geometry. And so the hologram
Mm.
is this sphere of rainbow light. And the sphere, the way that it's best described, is when you take the flower of life, you know, that beautiful sacred geometry that has all the little concentric circles that sort of looks
Mhm.
like a flower. When you make that into 3D, and make it rainbow. That's the hologram. And so this hologram of energy is spinning, and within that flower of life, all of the other sacred geometries are created. So we
Mm.
are built upon sacred geometry and sound. Like all physical matter is made of sound and geometry. And so we are tuning into these sacred geometries and these pure tone frequencies. And we're also connecting with the angels of guide, setting the intention for the highest good of all and the receiver. But so when we're doing that, we're moving beyond linear time and beyond linear sound. So when we think of sound, we tend to think of like a song, like the song begins, the song ends. But when we make sound multidimensional, which is one of the what we're gifted in holographic sound is learning how to do that, understanding what that means. That allows us to play with sound through space and time. So connecting to those
Mm.
multidimensional aspects of self, of other people, of these other timelines, of our other timelines, our past life masteries, our past life traumas, like that all of this is existing. And so now we're able to actually tap into it. And so we
Mm.
can access that traumatized lifetime and like bring it into wholeness. And we can bring that past life mastery into today's awareness. And so it's a way of playing with sound beyond what we've been taught to believe is possible with sound so far. So it's really
Wow.
unlocking like sacred wisdom and really juicy power with sound.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not even know that.
It's
That is
pretty
great.
juicy.
That's very juicy. I love that. I think the there's like infinite depths you can go to. Like
Yeah.
you think you're going to a sound class, but then there's actually so many layers to what's happening that
So
you don't need
layers.
to be aware of. But
Mhm.
once you open the door and call in a deepening of awareness, it will come as is happening with me doing this episode right now, live.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been like looking at sacred geometry and stuff, and like my small human self is like, I'm not good at math, I don't understand this. Like, but then I also know I do understand it, if that makes sense. Like the way that everything is just perfectly structured
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
numbers, but also in the design of everything.
Mm.
So like for those that don't understand it, just know that like maybe there are parts of you that don't and there are parts of you that do. And those two will like come together.
Mm. I love that you spoke to that because that was something that I also experienced was this like I'm not good at math. because that was like this program that I got installed.
Mm.
I was just a little kid that I've been running for a really long time. And I also remember like I took a geometry class in high school, and that was a really easy class for me because it was
Mm.
about the shapes, the patterns, the degrees. I don't know what it was, but it was like there was like a deeper wisdom that I was able to kind of
Mm.
float with. So when sacred geometry came into the realm, I was like, I have some level of comfortability with geometry. I know that. I
Mm.
know that some part of me gets geometry because I have this evidence in the past. But I would encourage people that if the numbers thing in geometry is like telling you that you don't know it, that like your infinite soul self, which you're also speaking to, Talia, it does know because it's
Yeah,
able to see those patterns because it's able to like look at it from a higher perspective. So
exactly.
it's seeing like circles and pyramids and prisms and all of these different things, whereas like we're experiencing like this level of life and awareness. So connecting to that higher self and inviting that higher self in any area we feel challenged, and it doesn't just have to be math. um, but that I think the beautiful thing with sacred geometry is that it's this underlying pattern, and so as we
Mm.
can understand and play with geometry, then we can start recognizing that pattern, and we can also tweak it. We can say like, oh, this is maybe a dysfunctional shape that's playing out here. What happens if I
Mm.
make this a sphere? Can I see it from more perspectives? Can I expand myself? Can I zoom out to like see
Mm.
the pattern? And so I think that's a beautiful invitation with sacred geometry.
Yeah, and I'll also just make a wider invitation. I don't know if you're listening and maybe what we're saying is making no sense, or you get put off by spirituality and ideas that feel not tangible to you. They like scare you, or you immediately like shut off or don't believe it, so to speak. Know that like there are deeper parts of you that are understanding. That's why you're actually here listening to this.
Yes.
And that there will be expansion if that's what you decide to call in.
Yeah. Well, that's such a beautiful reminder, too, because the entire universe is conspiring in our favor. When we set those intentions, everything is listening. And so the
Hmm.
human or the mind wants to like know how, wants to know the details,
Yeah.
wants to understand, wants proof, wants fact, wants to like just have it set in stone. And this higher version of us knows how fluid everything is, knows we don't need to understand, knows we can't possibly comprehend the levels of things that are actually happening, but that when we set that intention, that's the guiding light. So
Hmm.
you may not need to know every single memory and emotion that's being resolved in your heart chakra when you set the intention to open your heart. Likely, you're going to have some things come up. You're going to feel some things. You're going to have some stories play out. You're going to have some opportunities to make a new choice where there's an old pattern. But
Mm.
the real nitty gritty of like energy is flowing in and correcting your lymphatic system, and this specific code in geometry is being used in these arteries going down your left arm and this way coming up your right arm. And so there's so much happening when we're playing with these different modalities that allowing ourselves to step beyond the mind to be open with curiosity
Mm.
and leaning into trust, like
Yeah.
trust that there is support in what you're
Mm.
desiring and that it's already happening. Simply by you desiring that thing, the work is already being done. And so if we needed to consciously understand all that work, it would take us way, way longer to get there. Whereas if you're open to saying, I don't exactly know how this is working, but I trust that it's working,
Yeah.
it's going to invite more in for you.
Yeah, it's just being okay with the not knowing. And like just take your body as an example. Like you don't need to know the technicalities of breathing or like so many of the functions that are happening without you having to be consciously aware. And I think that's one of the things that I'm quite good at is like being okay with like not having all the technical explanations and like needing science and needing all these things for me to believe in it. And I think everyone's different and unique. And I think science is beautiful, and it's great that some people have minds that want to understand all of those things, but like also know that like there are some things that science is only just catching up on, and these ancient wisdoms have known these things for years. And so don't dismiss the power of the not knowing.
Mm. And for me too, part of it is what is resonant to me. Like, what do I feel truth with? What's a yes for me? And like, what isn't? Because with anything that I share, that you hear, anywhere that you go, take what resonates
Hmm.
and leave the rest. Because
Yeah, and
we
I
don't
think,
do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and what you're saying there is like truth is a feeling, it's a resonance that you feel. And I think some people feel like truth needs to be something in the mind that like aligns and makes sense, and there's something that is explained, as opposed to like tuning into the body and being like, how does truth feel? When something rings true, like how does that land inside me? And
Mm,
like using that as a guide, your intuition, or whatever you want to call it, it's like when something is true, like it can't not be true because it just feels like truth inside you.
yeah. Yeah, in
Yeah.
whatever way you feel, you sense, like there's truth and there's something that's not truth. So coming into that, does this feel like truth to me? Is this yes to me? Does this light me up? And it doesn't have
Yeah.
to, does this logically make sense to me? Because maybe it doesn't, but that there are these two sorts of like personalities, because we do have the logical side of the brain and then we have the creative side of the brain. And so there's like this inner ping pong game of like who gets to lead us. And so it's about
Mm,
that into harmony, that like there is so much value in the logic. That logic is keeping us alive, it's helping us do a lot of things in the day to day. And there's wisdom in this intuitive, creative, playful, flowing side also, because that's the gateway for spirit in that playful flowing moment, right? And so
mm,
both of those are necessary. They keep us alive, they keep
yeah.
us safe, they keep us inspired. um, but trying to only ever lean into the logical brain is going to like cause dysresonance, because this side of the brain also, like, they both are playing together. And so we're
Yeah.
working on like coming into here with
Yeah.
that.
It is all about balance for sure. It's a good point. And yeah, I next want to talk a bit about the new earth, because I know that's something that you speak about and speak into. And yeah, I think maybe just explaining a bit about what the concept or reality of it is for people who don't know, or what it is for you. And yeah, I'd be super interested to hear as well.
I love these questions. Okay, so new earth, new earth to me. So my understanding, my connection to new earth is both this future place and also this like present and eternal place. So I talk a lot about frequency. So there is a frequency of new earth. And so when to conceptualize frequency, I find it helpful to use the metaphor of a radio. So we are
Mhm.
tuning to different radio stations.
Yeah.
So there's a radio station that's playing of New Earth all the time. And so we are this rainbow bridge that's anchoring this frequency of New Earth here. And so for me, it's this idyllic heaven on earth place. It's where we are living in harmony with each other, with the animals, with the elements, with the planet, and that harmonious earth is then harmoniously rippling out in all the other ways that earth plays beyond this physical reality that we know here. So I have an amazing sister named Kat, and she and I, for quite a few months, we were meeting every Sunday, and we were going to New Earth. And so the way that we would do that is we would set up this container where we would join in a circle. And this is like an everlasting circle. And basically would be expanded with every meditation, with every new person that came in. It was increasing this amplitude of people going to access this frequency and then bringing it back. And so we would take a portal of energy. We would create this spiral portal of energy that would move us up through the dimensions into this frequency of new earth. And so when we would go there, everyone would have their own experience, right? So some people would be in the ocean or playing with animals, other people would be in healing temples or different things. They were guided meditations, so people got to explore different aspects of what this meant to them in that place. But what was really fascinating was that even the parts that were unguided, there was such a resonance that people would be experiencing the same things. And so, what that tells me is that we are actually going somewhere together. This place
Mm.
exists. And so, what I believe we're all here to do is to become that bridge, to become this spiral of energy, moving up the dimensions to access these higher frequencies, to then bring them back down and anchor them into our physical earth. Because our
Mm.
physical earth needs support right now. It's a beautiful thing to connect with the frequency of new earth. And I do believe that that exists here now and that I can create that reality through my intention and commitment to be that frequency, because that is my choice, is to be on that frequency, um, while honoring that there is work to be done here. That's not negating the fact that there is pain and trauma taking place all around the world, and there are people that are disempowered, that are impoverished, that are hungry, that are starving, that are experiencing violence. And so rather than focus my energy on that, on the pain, on the density, right? Because I don't
Mhm.
want that to continue. But it's very easy to send my energy and to get locked into this play of like, this is the reality that I see. So this is what I'm, we're going to have to just keep experiencing. So I am shifting my energy into a higher perspective. So I'm saying, when I go there, when I'm connecting to the frequency of new earth, when I'm choosing to embody that frequency, to be that living bridge, I'm holding the timeline for all of that to come into resolution,
Mm.
because I know that that can be resolved. I know that no person has to be hungry. I know that no person has to be homeless. I know that no person has to experience violence in their home, in the world, anywhere. I know that that exists because
Mm.
I know that I have the ability to do that. And I am accessing this frequency where I'm living in it. And so, even if it's a moment in meditation where we access that frequency and then we come back to real life, that is enough. Like, it doesn't have to be I am living like blissed out and I'm ignoring the reality of the world because I'm accessing this higher reality. There is a necessary amount of being in this reality, because we have to be grounded here and we get to acknowledge everything that's happening both for ourselves and other people. Like, it's not the game of like we ignore it and we gloss over it. We actually have to dig in there, right? Like, this crunchiness lives within me. So I don't get to just say like, oh, that's happening on the other side of the world, that's someone else's responsibility, I get to like stay in bliss. No, I get to like actually say, where am I perpetuating and experiencing violence in myself? Like, where am I
Mm.
being violent with myself? Where am I not meeting my own needs? Where I'm not giving myself the food and water that I need, or the safe housing that I need? Like, where is that happening in my experience? Because for me to actually affect and shift the reality outside of me, I have to shift it within me.
Yeah.
And so, new earth and this idea of new earth, this frequency is a tool. It's attuning you to the higher self, because when you're, okay, so we'll take again this example of taking these meditations, going to New Earth, accessing this frequency, meeting your guides there, meeting the animals there, swimming in the waters of New Earth, right? Experiencing a New Earth community. Like, what does that look like? And the reason that your imagination takes you there is because there is wisdom in that experience for you. Because there's a part
Mm.
of your soul that knows that you get to live in a community that like that. that you get to experience all children all over the world being safe, that gets to exist. And even if it isn't like that right here, right now, we are all moving together towards it.
Mm.
So this new earth is the invitation of where we're headed. And it's a frequency that we can access right now.
Wow. So much wisdom in what you just said on so many levels. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the fact that it's not negating the here and now, but it's using the power of our imagination, because whatever you can imagine is real. A lot of people live so detached from that magic.
It feels important to mention that I know this to be true in my experience, but I'm assuming it's not only my experience, was that I had trained my imagination in such a way that I was imagining things I did not desire because I was doing it
Mm,
through the energy of worry. I would
mm,
worry about things happening related to me, unrelated to me, this like worry.
mm,
And so my imagination was so tuned into worry that it felt weird to start imagining positive things. It felt
mm,
like there was some work that I got to like play in between what is like something that I desire that I'm creating consciously or unconsciously, and then what are things that I desire. And so if in your imagination you find that it's kind of challenging or weird to play in that, like, what do I desire, what would my future life be like, what would it feel like if I was already in that relationship, had all that money, drove that dream car, lived in a different country, that can feel almost, it almost had like a taboo texture to it of like, I can't dream that
well,
big.
yeah,
What is
well, it feels
that?
wrong because you're like,
Yeah.
that's so unrealistic and so
Hmm.
not real that like even imagining it feels weird. And I
Hmm.
think the more I've like done this work and the more that I just allow my imagination to orient towards everything I desire, like now I just believe in everything, like fairies, unicorns, all the things which we did when we were children. And now it's like when I close my eyes and I'm hugging someone and I see golden lights and rainbows, I'm like, that's real, you know? And it's like, I've met a lot of healers that are like, you know, all the things you see are real. Like, all you have to do is believe it. And it's like that belief piece is just like a hard one to implement sometimes because we're constantly told that it's not. But now I just enjoy it. I'm like, you know what? I don't even care if it's real because what even is something being real? You know,
Totally.
I'm just enjoying the experience of like having images of cute things that make me smile, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Like that, what a gift in that imagination and that frequency of play that we got to experience as a child is
Yeah,
ultimately what we're attempting to tap back into. Like as
exactly.
children, we knew we were so close to the other side of the veil. There was so much innate wisdom in that, in
Yeah,
our ability to play, to learn, to express, to imagine, and to imagine positively. Like we start to learn like how to imagine in ways that
yeah,
are benefiting us in ways that we don't desire. And then
yeah,
we become really good at that, worrying about the test, worrying about the relationship, worrying about the bills, worrying about blah, 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 right? And so it becomes really easy to then practice our imagination the other way. And then we sort of get told that imagining the fun way and the way that makes you like giggly and sparkly and happy and connected is not so much supporting society. Like, could you
yeah,
like tune that down?
yeah. And
Kind of
yeah,
with
I
the
have a
unicorn.
little, yeah, I have a little brother, and I obviously am living away, but like he FaceTimed me the other day, and yeah, it's so interesting just to watch that veil and watch the conditioning because like I asked him, so what magic have you been doing lately? And he's like, magic isn't real. What do you mean? And I was like, no, don't say that. It's not true. But yeah, I wanted to just hear a little bit more about your story. I mean, obviously there are lots of parts to it, I'm sure, but was there a moment that opened you up to this world in a big way that you'd like to share that feels like it wants to come out in this moment?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier the point where I started practicing Reiki was after a breakup. And
Yeah.
so my ex and I had been together for 10 years. It was such a wonderful relationship, and we had really planned our future together.
Mhm.
And then it wasn't lining up anymore. It was like this drum had started beating inside of me. I think it was maybe always beating, but I finally was like hearing it. And it was like, you need to travel. You need to travel. And so it
Mm,
was like nothing else mattered except traveling. And so it was like, even my job, I was like, I'll quit. Like, well, just it doesn't matter. Like, I have to listen to this.
mm,
And so my partner didn't have the same beating drum. The travel drum was not beating for him. He was happy where we were and really wanted to stay there and buy a house. And I was like, I can't. Like I knew already that any spare money I had was being allocated to travel. So I couldn't pour it into the house. And it was like it was a choice that almost wasn't a choice. It was like we came to this point of completion. And I had been in spiritual work and like my own work for a long time. My journey into spirituality started when I was 18. I had a major injury and I also left the Catholic Church at that time. There was just a lot that happened in my life, and I just was
mhm,
like, this God ain't it. I'm out. And so I stepped into my own journeys of yoga and meditation, but I also like made alcohol my higher power. I was like, okay, here's a thing that like helps me feel confident and numbs the stuff I feel bad about. And so drinking was a steady component of my relationship also. And so when our relationship ended, I sort of had like one last season of trying to make alcohol be part of it. So I would go through like months of sobriety, and then I would drink, and then I would like sort of regret drinking, and I was just living in this pattern. And I was in Austin and I got a beer tattoo. So I left my job and I came to Texas on a one way flight down here and got this beer tattoo. And on my drive back to Chicago, where I'm from, I was like, uh-oh, I think I have a really big incoming decision here. And I ended up choosing to be sober for 1 year because I was afraid of committing to anything beyond that. But I knew that like I had to answer this call. Like it was made so clear to me, so abundantly clear to me that this was the choice for me. And
mhm,
so when I made that choice, I expected it to be like the most challenging year. Everything was going to be really hard, and I was going to like just want to drink all the time. And it was challenging and it was hard, but I didn't want to drink all the time. That like actually went away pretty quickly. I felt really amazing actually without having alcohol and the complications of alcohol in my life. But what I was being shown was all the stuff that was beneath that, the social anxiety, this like wanting to always be out of my body, this like all of these different things that were
mm,
making alcohol my drug of choice. And so in that was when I started really leaning into dance. And so I started practicing chakra dance, which is another incredible modality. And that was helping me open up and explore my chakras more than I ever had before, even deeper than I ever had before, because I had been doing chakra dance. But once everything met me in sobriety, it was so different. Like
mhm.
it was just like
Wow.
everything was so amplified. It was like I became this open channel. And so what I didn't know at the time was that alcohol takes about 30 days to process out of our bodies. So even when I was giving myself those like months of sobriety, then I would like drink and then it would be like another month basically. And so
Mm.
the main thing that happens when we're drinking alcohol is that our crown chakra closes. So we are not accessing from this like eternal truth. So I'm not getting downloads from my higher self. I'm not connecting to God in the same way. And I'm not saying that you're not still connected because we're all always connected. But this like opening that and closing that happens with alcohol had actually been having like a significant impact on me and on my spirituality. And so when I didn't have alcohol in the picture, I was like, oh my God, everything is magic. And I finally get it. Like I can see it. And so
Yeah.
chakra dance led to Reiki, led to sound healing, led to moving to Austin, through Austin. I've been traveling basically since 2020. And it has been this greater and greater opening into myself and into the divine. And the gift of being sober is that I got to take full responsibility because I didn't just like decide to stop drinking. I also decided to get into recovery. I didn't want to just like choose not alcohol. I wanted to understand what had driven me to choose this,
Mm.
see the pattern so that I could choose something else. Because if we don't see the pattern, if we don't see the choice, how can we make another choice? And so I started going to recovery meetings, both for alcohol and also for codependency, which coda.org. Coda is a great resource. Those meetings changed my life because the emotional underlying reasons for drinking were a big part of it. And the way that I was showing up in relationship was a big part of it because I had been taught and learned ways of relating that were not healthy, that were
Mm.
unhelpful, and that were actually somewhat destructive. But because I wasn't even aware of the choice, I didn't understand that underlying belief that was like causing this and that action and response and all these different things. Once I had given myself the space to do those inventories and to like get into my crunchy stuff and look at my resentments and look at these patterns, look at these beliefs, then it allowed me to choose. I really didn't understand that I was always choosing. I was sort of just
Mm.
letting life happen to me.
Yep.
And I was living in a state of victimhood of this person did that to me and this job is doing this for me and blah, blah, blah. I had all of these stories. But when I was looking at the stories, I'm like, I just tell this story. Like, what if I didn't tell that story anymore? What if I
Yep.
forgave myself, forgave the other people, and told a new story? And
What
so
if?
what could happen? And what happened for me was that everything in my life changed.
Yeah.
All of the relationships changed. My work has definitely changed. I went from like working in machinery to like being a spiritual sound healer, Reiki practitioner, and a bunch of other cool stuff I get to do.
Yeah.
And my relationships are so much more deep and expansive and supportive because I was holding back. I was holding back in relationship and I was making all these judgments about other people and their capacity to support me and hold space for me. That wasn't even true, but it was true because I was making it true. My belief in it, my commitment to that story was making it true because my brain is then supporting it, is finding evidence. Oh, you think this is true? We're going to prove it to you. And the universe does the same thing, right? Like, oh, you think it's going to be hard to pay your bills every month? Okay, it'll be hard to pay your bills every month. Like, okay, you think it's easy to make money? It's going to be easy for you to make money. So we are like constantly in this feedback system of like what we believe is being expressed to us all the time. And like what we choose is choosing us back. And like we get to at any point choose something different. And there The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. She
Yeah.
said that at any point you could choose again. Thank you for showing me that I have chosen wrongly. I choose now to choose this,
Yeah.
however she says it. That book is so good. And like in understanding that, because that was like came in while I was in this recovery period, is that it is choice. And so that's a big thing that inspires me is to remind others that we are always choosing. There is always choice. And
Yeah, and I think even when you can change that sentence. I went to an event, Awaken Your Higher Self, and like
yeah.
people come up and they say like, "Oh, like my relationship with my mom is so bad," and then he says, "Repeat after me. I choose to make my relationship with my mom bad." And even just rephrasing that sentence makes you realize like, "Oh, I chose that." And like sometimes we realize it and we want to change it, and that feels hard. What would you say to someone who wants to change it and realizes, but then feels like it's not happening, like they keep progressing back?
Mm. So, first of all, you're not doing anything wrong. Like, your awareness is the first step. And so when we have these choices, likely there's a lot of evidence and a lot of practice in choosing the thing and seeing the thing that you don't want. And so like if everything is a bank, right? So like I am choosing to see myself in scarcity, right? And I've been choosing that for so long that it's my reality. It's very
Yeah.
convincing here. And so when I now am gaining awareness of that and choosing to see myself in abundance,
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of support to this one. And so for all the 1,300 times I have said or felt or seen or experienced something that supported evidence to the scarcity point of view, I now like get to have 13,000 on this side to like shift me, right? So we would I'm not saying that it can't spontaneously shift and you've chosen new and now you never have to play with that choice again. Sometimes that happens. We can like see something so clearly and be like, wow, I'm never choosing that again. But other times we have to work through that energetic back
Yeah.
that's happening. And so the subconscious mind plays a huge part in that. Like so much of our choices are being determined by evidence that your brain has decided is true. So we're like upgrading the brain's programming. And so that is a process. And it doesn't
Yeah.
always happen overnight. It
Yeah,
can happen
that's
overnight.
why I wanted to bring that up because yes, realizing you chose it and accepting responsibilities that creative your life is a powerful step, and having the intention to change that, but also know that like it can take a lot of time because as you say, the amount of times you've programmed and told yourself and believed the opposite needs to also balance out sometimes, and that takes a lot of time. So have patience with yourself, love yourself through it, and know that it's not regressing or doing anything wrong, but it's a process. And like the journey that you're going to go on to change those things is a beautiful journey.
Mm, yeah. And like have grace with yourself too. Like, and this is, we also get to provide for ourselves these little ways to quantum leap those things. So if you have this area where you feel like you want to have a big shift happen, you can call in support. That may look like working with a coach, working with a healer, calling in angelic support, connecting with unseen realms to support this thing.
Yeah.
Um, because, like, when you're learning something, right, mastery is 10,000 hours. And so like there's a difference between sitting and reading a book and then like learning through play. Like I forget what the statistic is, but when you learn through play, it's like a significant shorter time where you like
Yeah.
learn a lot more. And so like inviting you if this is something that you want to shift, where can you bring play into that area?
Mm,
Because there's going to be a gift there and like or who makes this thing that you're learning about that you're reprogramming like who makes that feel fun or like who makes you feel supported because there's another great book who not how like instead of asking the question how do I shift into abundance like who can help me shift into abundance like recognizing that like the people in your world and the people that you're attracted to like that has meaning and power in it too so being open to support coming from the outside it doesn't always have to be like I have to affirm I am abundant and write it down 50 times a day for the next 30 days do that if you feel inspired to do that. But maybe there's another way that you can
Mm.
take a workshop with someone who is like giving you abundance codes and offering you more than that singular affirmation, or listening to a subliminal that has a million meditations in an hour, whatever. People are doing wild things with subliminals. But there are different ways that you can play with that. And each of us is going to have a different thing that feels good and true.
Yeah,
So exploring the different ways of reprogramming and being open to it taking what it takes. Like, because it may not only be yours. This may be an ancestral thing that you're here like
exactly.
code breaking. And so many of us
Exactly.
are doing that ancestral work. Like we came in here because this density, these karmic patterns, they go deep and they go way back. And all of our family lines have karmic trauma density stuff. A
Yep.
lot. There is nobody untouched by that on this planet. If you're on planet Earth, your family line has some shit in it, period. And so you are not only supporting your own evolution, you're supporting the generations that way and the generations that way. So having love for yourself in this process, because you came in with baggage that wasn't yours. And so this process, this alleviation is not only alleviating your karma, but it's also alleviating the karma of your family, which is why it feels so heavy. But it's
Yeah.
also why you have so much support because they receive the blessings of everything you do. And so if you want to connect to a power source when you're doing this ancestral work, connect to your ancestors and connect to the future ancestors because they are all benefiting from this work. So of course they're going to pour love in. Like they have infinite love for you. So that like leaning into the guides and things that you can't see, even if you don't know
Mm.
what that is, being open to you receiving what's in your highest and greatest good.
Yeah. Amazing.
I think the final thing that I want to share with is that you are magic. You are medicine. You are the magic that you need. You are the magic that the world needs. And there are so many ways that you share that sacred magic, that sacred medicine with the world in your being, in the things that you say, in the gifts that you give, in the places that you go, in everything that you do.
Mm.
And so it isn't about being perfect. It's not about being the most healed version of yourself. Yeah, that's like the goal, but like that's in constant evolution. Like there is
Mhm.
never a ceiling that we hit. We keep evolving all the way up to higher frequencies than we even possibly know. And so rather than trying to be like, I have to be more or do more, embracing that you right now are enough, that you are already magic. Nothing
Mm.
has to be turned on or anything has to happen from anyone else. You right now in this moment, you are magic. And you are magic in every single moment. And you can connect to that anytime.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you. And yeah, obviously I'll share your details in the show notes, but you already mentioned that you are offering your Reiki training, which is online, so anyone in the world can access it. And then if you just want to share a bit about your other offerings, go for it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So you can find me on Instagram at maddieb.energy. You can find me on the web at maddieb.energy. I do private and group sessions. I do meditations, Reiki, sound healing, intuitive light language channeling, and activations. I also practice Reiki and sound healing with animals, which is great. Those sessions can be done in person or remotely. I love both, they're amazing. I have a couple retreats I'm working on right now in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. There is
Ooh.
absolutely stunning development called Corazon. And my dear friend Laura and I are putting together some property tour and wellness retreats there. So definitely follow me on socials if you want to hear more
Oh
about
my
that.
God. I have
Yeah,
the call to come to Mexico, so we'll
well,
have to
this
talk
is the
about that.
place. The cenotes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yes. And I also wanted to talk about light language, but we didn't have time. But maybe you can just quickly say what it is.
Yeah, so light language, they are the songs, the frequencies of our soul. And so everyone has a connection to light language. They're expressions of love, and they are these coded frequencies that come through, whether through sound, through speaking, singing, but they can also come through dance. They can come through eye contact, body movement. So like when we're dancing, like you can imagine like waves of light like coming off of you. And when you speak,
Mm.
like, when you talked about like giving a hug, like those light codes, those light languages, those light frequencies, it's connecting to this greater intelligence and love of the universe. And so we can access higher dimensional states and other lifetimes and guides and lots of amazing things, with this conscious connection through our heart space to connect to love. And so, light language is really fun. It's such a gift to get to share it with other people, to support people in coming online to their light language. It's just really incredible. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, yeah, thanks again for being here, for sharing your magic, for being the magic that you are in this world.
Mm.
And thank you all who've listened as well.